Well, let's discuss this further now. With me in the studio is Ahmed Fouad Alkhatib. He's a Gaza analyst who is a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council and director of Realign for Palestine. Welcome to you, Ahmed. Always good to have you with us in the studio.
Thank you.
Let's just begin by touching on the situation in the Gaza Strip. Once again, significant issues in terms of distribution of aid and how that mechanism is working. Do you see that being reassessed, changed anytime soon in light of those challenges that we're seeing?
Well, unfortunately, what was predicted early on is persisting, which is that when you have few sites away from major population centers, when the civilian population that's desperate for food, that's desperate for any supplies, that hasn't had access to food for over 2 months, has to traverse treacherous terrain for over, at times, 20 miles at a time. This is what's going to happen once people reach the site. There are stampedes, there's confusion as to where they're supposed to go, supplies run out sooner, and there's just chaos at these sites. And I think that's partially what's contributing to what we're seeing. The other thing that we have to accept is that this mechanism is here to stay for the near future. I've spoken to former and current U.S. and senior Israeli officials who insist that this is the only way to separate Gazans from Hamas. And so the conversation needs to be around how do we actually make this less deadly, how do we scale it up, and how do we make it so that it's sustainable and can deliver desperately needed food.
Well, what are some of the thoughts on that then from your side in terms of those potential solutions to make this safer?
Well, number one is we need a serious effort to engage the humanitarian community that has rightfully been suspicious of this mechanism, the United Nations, the NGOs, many of whom are friends of mine, family members. My brother is on the ground in Gaza running a major medical NGO. So they're very skeptical of this mechanism. They're very concerned about lending any credibility to it. So engaging them and working together in a multilateral fashion. Number two is increasing the number of sites that are available so that people don't have to go very far. Number three is to actually perhaps operate in a hybrid model whereby some of the old mechanism can be reactivated in parallel with this new Gaza Humanitarian Foundation approach, which, yes, is difficult for Hamas to loot.
I also want to ask you about another development that we heard this week. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's confirming that he is arming rival clans in the Gaza Strip. What are your thoughts on that, the potential for risks here?
On the one hand, I'm not surprised that he's grasping at the straws at this point, trying to figure out how to do anything but reinvite the Palestinian Authority, but to promise a pathway toward Palestinian statehood so that the moderate Arab nations can potentially contribute peacekeeping forces and the international community can be a part of the solution. On the other hand, the situation is so desperate that people are wanting to rid themselves of Hamas's rule. People are wanting to rid themselves of the fact that they're stuck between a merciless Israeli war machine and a ruthless terror organization. And some might be willing to take those risks. However, I caution against, and I've said so publicly and to Israeli officials, that let's not forget that it was the financing of hundreds of millions and billions of dollars to Hamas before October 7th that got us to partially this situation that we're in. I worry about the potential of arming local militias that could create a Somalia-like situation whereby this Yasser Abu Shabab could become a Mohammed Farah Hadid, and we could see the emergence of multiple competing warlords, and that's an untenable situation.
Ahmed Fouad Alkhatib, a Gaza analyst who's a senior fellow at the Atlantic Council, also director of Realign for Palestine. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.